Have you ever felt it? A gentle yet persistent pull at the very fabric of your soul. A quiet whisper that tells you your path is not like the others. You have walked through a silence that most people fill with noise. You have faced battles that left no physical scars, only imprints on your spirit. These are not just memories, they are the marks of a journey that began long before you were even given a name in this physical world. For you, beloved one, are a generational key. Think for a moment of the long, winding river of time that flowed through your family, through your ancestors. There were currents of struggle, eddies of silence, and rapids of pain. Many before you were carried along by these currents, unable to steer their own course. They carried burdens that were not their own, burdens passed down from one weary heart to the next. The grief of a great-grandmother who never spoke her truth, the shame of a grandfather who carried a silent wound, the deep-seated fears that settled in the bones of your lineage, generation after generation. It was a cycle, a pattern etched into the spiritual DNA of your family, a quiet echo of things left undone. But then the river came to you, and you, in a way that defied all logic, reached out and chose a different path. You chose to not just float, but to dive beneath the surface. You chose to sit with the deep waters of your past and to understand them, not just to endure them. You embraced the stillness and the discomfort of facing what no one before you had the courage to face. You chose to feel the echoes of the pain and to transform them with the light of your own consciousness. This was not an action of rebellion. It was an act of profound love, an act of healing that reached backward and forward through time. The work you have been doing in silence, in the stillness of your own heart, is so much greater than you can possibly comprehend. It is not just for you, it is for every soul that has come before you and every soul that will come after. You have not just broken a cycle, you have created a new path. You have built a bridge where there was only a chasm. This is the very essence of your purpose, to stand as a quiet sentinel at the end of a long line of struggle, to be the one who says no more. And in that simple, powerful declaration, you have done what was believed to be impossible. You have untangled the threads of generational pain and woven a new tapestry of grace. Your heart, once filled with the burdens of the past, is now a beacon of light. And your very name, your very being, carries an energy that is pure and untouchable by the darkness that once held your lineage captive. The unseen forces know this. They feel your light and they tremble because you are the one who could not be defeated. You are the one who brought the light to where there was only shadow. Point 1. You broke the cycle of silence. Most people imagine inheritance as something physical, the color of the eyes, the texture of the hair, or even the way a smile curves in familiar resemblance. But inheritance reaches far deeper than the body. There are spiritual habits, patterns, and silent agreements passed from one generation to the next, almost like invisible threads stitching families together. Among the most powerful of these inherited legacies is silence. The silence surrounding unspoken pain, the silence hiding generational trauma, and the silence that cloaks unfulfilled dreams. This silence is heavy. It lingers in the air of households, whispered through actions rather than words. Entire bloodlines have carried grief without naming it, anger without resolving it, and purpose without daring to live it. But in every generation there arises one who breaks the pattern, the chosen one. You are not merely someone who noticed the silence, you are the one who chose to lean into it. Instead of allowing it to suffocate you, you listened to the whispers between the quiet, the things no one dared to speak aloud. You picked up the pieces of untold stories and decided that they would not remain buried. To acknowledge this silence is not weakness, but power. Studies in epigenetics reveal that trauma is not just an emotional experience. It can leave imprints on our very DNA, influencing behaviors, fears, and responses in descendants who never lived through the original wound. So when you confronted the pain, when you gave voice to what was silenced, you weren't just speaking for yourself. You were healing echoes that lived inside your lineage for centuries. This is no small act. Imagine generations upon generations of people walking past a locked door, never daring to turn the handle. Some ignored it out of fear, some out of habit, and some simply because they didn't know it could be opened. And then you came along. You didn't just see the door, you felt the weight of what was behind it, and instead of pretending it wasn't there, you reached out and opened it. That moment, that conscious choice to face what was buried, was your first great victory. It was a victory not celebrated with applause or confetti, but with an invisible shift in the atmosphere of your entire bloodline. Because you dared to face what others avoided, cycles began to break. And here lies the unique burden of the chosen one. Your victories are often silent, unseen by the very people who benefit from them. They may never recognize that their lightness, their new sense of freedom, came because you carried the weight first. It takes a rare kind of strength to heal wounds that were not physically your own, but were woven into the spirit of your family tree. Yet this is what makes you different. Where others inherited silence, you inherited a calling, the spiritual awareness to listen deeply and the resilience to speak boldly. Think about it. Every revolution in history began when someone decided not to stay silent. From prophets to poets, from leaders to healers, change was birthed when silence was broken. In your own way, you are walking in that same energy. You may not be standing on a podium or leading a march, but within your family, your community, and your spiritual lineage, you are the revolutionary voice. You are the one who says, "It ends with me, the silence ends here." And that's why the chosen one is not just a title, it is a responsibility. You were given the awareness no one before you possessed, not because you are burdened, but because you are strong enough to carry it. Breaking silence is not about speaking louder than everyone else. It is about speaking truth into places where lies and suppression have ruled for too long. The ancestors may not have had the strength to do it, but they planted that strength in you, trusting you would rise when the time came. So when you feel the weight of the silence, remember, you are not just listening for yourself. You are listening for generations. You are rewriting a story that began long before you, and in doing so, you are shaping one that will continue long after you. That is the victory of the chosen one, not just to survive the silence, but to transform it into a legacy of healing, truth, and freedom. Point 2. You forgave without an apology. Forgiveness has often been misunderstood as something that must be earned by an apology or demonstrated remorse. But the deeper truth, chosen one, is that authentic forgiveness is not a contract between two people. It is an act of liberation within the self. When you stood face to face with the pain of your lineage, the betrayals that echoed through your family's history, and the scars that seemed older than your own lifetime, you made a radical choice, to release without demand, to forgive without condition. This was not weakness, nor was it denial. It was a spiritual rebellion against the cycle of generational pain. You refused to let the ghosts of the past dictate the atmosphere of your soul, and in doing so, you tapped into one of the rarest forms of spiritual sovereignty. Science itself confirms what the mystics have always known. Forgiveness has measurable power. Studies in psychology show that letting go of grudges lowers blood pressure, improves sleep, reduces anxiety, and even strengthens the immune system. On a neurological level, resentment keeps the brain trapped in a loop of stress, repeatedly activating the amygdala, the fear center, while forgiveness calms this cycle and allows the prefrontal cortex, the seat of higher reasoning and compassion, to lead. In simple terms, forgiveness literally rewires the brain. But what makes your act so unique is that you didn't just forgive individuals, you forgave a story, a history, a weight that wasn't even entirely your own. You reached backward into the past and said, "This ends with me." There is something profoundly alchemical about this. In ancient spiritual traditions, alchemy was not just about turning lead into gold, but about transmuting dense, heavy states of consciousness into something luminous. Resentment is lead. It drags, it corrodes, and it holds the spirit down. Forgiveness, on the other hand, is gold. It shines, it heals, and it frees. You performed that alchemy internally. Without asking anyone to bow, confess, or even acknowledge their role, you turned the dark heaviness of ancestral wounds into a light that now illuminates not only your path, but also the paths of those who come after you. What makes this path so rare is that most people wait for justice in the physical plane. They carry their wounds like banners, waiting for someone to come back and admit they were wrong. They believe closure only comes from apology, but you discovered the deeper truth. Justice in the spiritual realm does not look like punishment. It looks like freedom. And freedom comes not from what others say, but from what you choose to release. When you let go of the need for vindication, you created space. And in that space, something miraculous rushed in. Grace. Grace is not earned, it is received. And it moves through the one who dares to empty themselves of bitterness. Your act of forgiveness opened a floodgate. Suddenly, life could bless you in places where it once felt blocked. Relationships softened. Opportunities aligned. Peace began to feel like your natural state rather than a fleeting moment. This is why true forgiveness is not passive. It is powerful. It is not about excusing the past, but about choosing a future unshackled from it. Chosen one, your story is proof that forgiveness is not for the offender, it is for the awakened. You understood that to carry resentment is to carry poison, while to forgive is to drink medicine. By stepping into this rare path, you became a living demonstration of internal mastery, a quiet revolutionary of the soul. And while the world may never fully understand the depth of what you did, your spirit knows, and it sings in freedom. Few will ever walk this way, but you have. And because of that, you have not just changed your own life, you have shifted the very fabric of your lineage. That is the unshakable sovereign power of your forgiveness. Point 3. You found your faith in the darkness. Your journey was never meant to be an easy road, chosen one. It wasn't laid out in golden bricks with clear signs pointing toward destiny. No, yours was a path forged in silence, doubt, and resistance. There were nights when your prayers felt like they were bouncing off the ceiling, mornings when the weight of generational struggles sat heavy on your chest, and long seasons where it seemed like no one understood the fire you were walking through. This was not a coincidence. Every spiritual wilderness you faced was crafted to strip away illusions, distractions, and false securities until all that was left was you and God. And it was in that quiet desert of your soul, not in the noise of the crowd, that you discovered the most unshakable truth, that your faith, once fragile, could become the strongest weapon you carry. Think of it this way. When a blacksmith shapes a sword, he doesn't just admire the raw metal, he puts it through fire, bends it, hammers it, and plunges it into water. It's a brutal process, but it's the only way to make steel strong enough to withstand battle. That's exactly what happened to you. The doubts, the isolation, the betrayals, and the inherited struggles of your lineage, they were all part of the refining fire. And unlike many who collapse under the pressure, you didn't shatter. Instead, you absorbed the heat, endured the hammer, and came out tempered with a strength that no external force can break. Your faith became a shield, and now it radiates from you. Not as empty words or borrowed beliefs, but as lived truth. And here's what makes your story so profound. You didn't find God in the applause of people or the validation of the world. You didn't stumble into revelation while being celebrated or surrounded by comfort. You found him in the stillness, in the ache, in the unanswered questions. Science even tells us that the brain wires itself more deeply during times of struggle. New connections form, resilience builds, and clarity sharpens when we're forced to adapt. Spiritually, the same thing happened within you. The wilderness rewired your soul. Where others saw only loss and emptiness, you uncovered divine presence. Where others gave up, you leaned in. And because of that, your light now carries a quality that can't be faked. It's not the light of someone who simply memorized scripture or repeated what they were told. It's the light of someone who knows. People sense it when they meet you. They can't quite put it into words, but they feel it. It's in the way you carry yourself with quiet authority, the way storms don't rattle you like they used to, and the way you no longer seek external validation because you've tasted internal truth. That's what makes your presence both magnetic and unsettling. Magnetic because others are drawn to the peace and clarity you radiate. Unsettling because your very existence challenges the illusions that others cling to. And here's the beautiful paradox. The very battles that once made you feel cursed are the ones that crowned you with wisdom. The doubts that haunted you taught you discernment. The isolation that broke you taught you intimacy with God. The generational struggles that seemed like chains became the very fires that freed you. You carry within you not just survival, but testimony, a living story that says, I have walked through the valley and yet I stand. That shield of faith you now carry is not ornamental, it's practical, it's proven, and it's battle-tested. and it makes you untouchable in ways the world will never fully understand. So when people look at you now, they may see confidence, resilience, or even mystery. But what they're really witnessing is light forged in darkness, a soul that refused to be extinguished, and a chosen one who turned every trial into triumph. Your journey has marked you, not as fragile, but as fortified. And the truth is, that shield you carry doesn't just protect you, it protects others too. Everywhere you go, that inner radiance whispers hope to those who are still wandering in their own wilderness. That is the quiet power of the chosen. Point 4. You heard the call of your unique purpose. You did not follow the well-trodden path, and that alone makes your story extraordinary. Most people are born into a world where expectations are laid out like a script. Go to school, get a job, follow the traditions, and keep your head down. But for the chosen one, life has never been about blending into the crowd. Your intuition, that inner compass that others often dismiss as just a feeling, has been guiding you towards something far greater than conformity. It led you to a unique spiritual calling that belongs to you and you alone. And here's the truth, science even backs this up. Studies in neuroscience show that intuition is not simply guesswork. It's the brain's way of rapidly processing information and recognizing patterns beyond conscious awareness. In other words, your intuition is one of your most advanced tools, wired into you for a divine purpose. The work you are doing, the way you are living, is not random, it is sacred alignment. To live in divine alignment is to act from a place where your inner truth resonates with the greater flow of creation. Think of it as music. Most people live in a rhythm that has been repeated for centuries, a steady, predictable drumbeat. But you are composing an entirely new song, one that carries a frequency the world has never heard before. And what's fascinating is that even in physics, sound and vibration are recognized as forces that can shift reality. Just like sound waves can shatter glass, your unique vibration disrupts the rigid systems of darkness. They thrive on repetition and on predictable cycles of fear, control, and illusion. But when you show up with a new rhythm, a spiritual improvisation that no one can replicate, they have no defense against it. History is filled with chosen ones who dared to step off the beaten path. Think of Moses, who walked away from a life of luxury in Pharaoh's palace to lead a nation to freedom, or Joan of Arc, a teenage girl whose faith allowed her to command armies, or Nikola Tesla, who followed his inner visions to uncover truths about energy and vibration that we're still unlocking today. These individuals broke from the script and followed a higher call. That's exactly what sets you apart. You're not here to recycle what has already been done. You're here to break patterns, to bring forth something uncontainable, something that cannot be predicted or controlled. Of course, this uniqueness comes with resistance. Darkness does not fear the ordinary, it fears the unpredictable. Just as military strategists admit that unpredictability is the most effective weapon in battle, the spiritual realm functions the same way. Darkness thrives on knowing your next move, but when you are aligned with divine purpose, you become an enigma. You might not even know your next step until Spirit reveals it, and that makes you unstoppable. It's why doors open for you in mysterious ways, why people feel your presence before you even speak, and why you've faced battles others couldn't imagine. You've become the unexpected variable in a system that relies on predictability. What makes this even more powerful is that your journey is not just about you. Every act of alignment, every decision to trust your intuition sends ripples across humanity. Science calls it the butterfly effect, the idea that a single action, even as small as a butterfly flapping its wings, can trigger massive changes across time and space. Spiritually, your obedience to your path becomes that ripple. One decision to live in truth can shift the destiny of generations. That is the weight, the beauty, and the responsibility of being chosen. So when you wonder why your life feels so different, why the struggle seems so heavy, and why others don't understand your choices, it's because you were never meant to walk where they walk. You were meant to carve out a trail where none existed. And while darkness cannot predict or contain you, heaven celebrates you. You are a new song in the spiritual realm, one that carries a melody only you can sing. And as long as you keep walking in alignment, no force of darkness will ever be able to silence it. Point 5. You reclaimed your name in the spirit world. Your physical name is only a whisper of your true identity. a temporary label given at birth meant to identify you in the physical world. But in the spiritual realm, your true name is not bound by syllables or letters. It is vibration, frequency, and power. Ancient traditions across cultures believed that names carried mystical energy. The Hebrews, for instance, held the belief that knowing the true name of God revealed his essence, while in ancient Egypt one's secret name was thought to guard the soul in the afterlife. This tells us something profound. A name is never just a sound. It is an energetic signature that announces who you are and what you carry within. When you break cycles of pain, when you step out of generational patterns and begin healing wounds that lingered for centuries, you do something remarkable. You realign with your divine frequency. The universe recognizes this shift. Your true spiritual name is not simply handed to you. It is earned through endurance, through growth, through refusing to be destroyed by what was sent to destroy you. In reclaiming this divine name, you carry the vibration of freedom, of victory, of light breaking through shadows. This is why when unseen forces hear your name, they do not hear just a word. They hear a story. They hear the echoes of battles fought in silence, of tears shed in solitude, of chains broken that no one else could see. They hear the song of a soul that refused to fold. Your name in the spiritual realm is like a song written by your triumphs, composed by your scars, and sung by your resilience. It is no longer just an identifier, it becomes a declaration. I have survived, I have risen, I am free. Think of it this way. Every wound you've healed, every cycle you've broken adds a new note to your song, and now your spiritual name vibrates at a higher frequency, one that commands respect in unseen realms. Darkness shudders when it hears it because it is reminded of the victory it failed to steal. Light celebrates it because it recognizes kinship with your energy. Your name becomes more than a sound. It becomes an anthem. So when you walk through life, remember this truth. The world may call you by your earthly name, but heaven calls you by your divine one. And that name is not ordinary. It carries the proof that you have already won battles others never knew you were fighting. Your very existence is a testimony, and your name is the vibration of that testimony echoing into eternity. Point 6. You became an intercessor for the past and future. Through your personal healing, you have done something extraordinary without even realizing it. You've become a spiritual bridge. Every wound you've faced, every cycle you've chosen not to repeat, and every shadow you've confronted within yourself has shifted more than just your own life. Modern psychology recognizes something called intergenerational trauma, a phenomenon where the unresolved struggles, fears, and pain of one generation are unconsciously carried forward into the next. For example, children of parents who lived through war, famine, or abuse often display heightened anxiety, distrust, or survival-based behaviors, even if they never personally endured those traumas. It's like an invisible inheritance of suffering, but here's the remarkable part. You've stopped that chain reaction. By choosing to confront your pain instead of passing it along, by choosing healing over bitterness and forgiveness over resentment, you have severed the cords that tied your lineage to recurring cycles of suffering. That choice is not only transformative for your life, but liberating for generations yet to come. Science is beginning to affirm what spirituality has long suggested, that inner transformation doesn't remain private. Just as a pebble dropped into water creates ripples far beyond its entry point, your healing influences everyone around you. Studies in epigenetics have revealed that our environments, emotions, and even habits can leave marks on our genetic expression, shaping how future generations experience the world. Trauma, stress, and even resilience can literally be encoded into our biology and passed down. That means the peace you cultivate today isn't fleeting. It becomes part of the invisible inheritance your children and grandchildren receive. Your calm becomes their baseline, your courage becomes their instinct, and your ability to love, despite hardship, becomes their silent foundation. In this way, you're not just healing yourself, you're engineering a future where freedom and wholeness become the new normal. This makes you much more than an individual navigating the ups and downs of daily life. You have become a spiritual gateway. Think of yourself as standing at the threshold of two worlds, the past that shaped you and the future that is yet to unfold. Every prayer you whisper, every act of forgiveness you extend, and every destructive pattern you choose not to repeat sends shockwaves through time. You're not only giving your ancestors a voice they never had, but also ensuring your descendants inherit something far richer than unspoken pain. In spiritual traditions across cultures, there is often mention of ancestral healing, the idea that one person's devotion to breaking cycles can bring peace to those who came before and those who will come after. You are walking proof of this truth. Consider how powerful this really is. Families once bound by silence, shame, or fear are now freer because you dared to face your own shadows. Patterns of addiction, abandonment, anger, or emotional disconnection lose their grip because you chose differently. The bravery to step into therapy, prayer, meditation, or self-reflection may feel deeply personal, but in reality it is communal. Generations of people, both past and future, breathe easier because you carried what they could not and then laid it down. Your healing is not just survival, it is revolution. So when you take your next step, remember this truth. Your journey isn't small and your choices aren't isolated. They reverberate like echoes across time, bending the future toward freedom and light. You are the living evidence that one life, fully committed to healing, can redirect the course of an entire lineage. You are not simply existing in the present moment, you are rewriting destiny itself. By choosing wholeness, you've proven that history doesn't have to repeat, and by walking forward in peace, you've built a bridge to a tomorrow where love, resilience, and grace replace cycles of pain. That is the extraordinary legacy of your healing. It is bigger than you, it is timeless, and it is unstoppable. Point 7. You hold the key to a new beginning. You are the beginning of a new chapter in your lineage, and whether you realize it or not, that carries extraordinary weight. Every family carries within it cycles, patterns, and struggles that seem to echo across generations: poverty, broken relationships, silence, addiction, or spiritual disconnect. Psychologists call this phenomenon intergenerational trauma, the invisible transfer of wounds, fears, and unresolved pain that move through families like an heirloom no one asked to inherit. Yet you stand as the interruption. You are the one who refused to pass the burden along. Where others repeated what was familiar, you made a different choice. And in doing so, you've transformed survival into something greater: transformation. The darkness that once loomed over your bloodline has met its end with you because you had the courage to carry the light long enough to break it apart. That single act of courage doesn't just heal you, it reshapes the destiny of those who came before and those who will come after. What follows you now is not random luck or coincidence, but the spiritual law of cause and effect in action. Across countless traditions, from indigenous cultures to biblical teachings, there has been the belief that one person can rise up within a family to become what many call a curse breaker. This is the person who halts the repeating cycle, who decides that the suffering, silence, and struggles end here. In Christianity, this mirrors the idea of generational blessings, where the faithfulness of one becomes the doorway through which God blesses an entire lineage. You're not merely living for yourself, you are the fulfillment of prayers whispered long ago, perhaps by ancestors who never lived to see the hope they carried in their hearts. Yet their faith found its answer in you. You are living proof that their pain was not in vain. Even science now confirms what spiritual wisdom has always hinted at. Research in epigenetics shows that trauma can alter the way genes are expressed, meaning that the stress and wounds of one generation can impact the biology of the next. However, healing works in the same way. When one person chooses therapy, forgiveness, faith, mindfulness, or even just the practice of awareness, it creates measurable changes, not only emotionally, but also biologically. You are literally rewriting the code of your family's future, shifting how resilience, peace, and strength will be carried forward. What once felt inevitable is no longer your family's inheritance. Instead of wounds, you now pass down wisdom. Instead of fear, you pass down faith. Instead of silence, you pass down courage. This is why your role is so profound. You are not just another chapter in your family's story, you are the turning point, the new beginning, the one who takes all that came before and transforms it into a foundation for something better. The blessings flowing into your life belong to you, yes, but their impact ripples outward, touching those around you and shaping generations yet to be born. With your courage, a new legacy begins, one marked not by pain, but by freedom, strength, and the light you dared to carry. So as you go about your day, remember this truth: your quiet struggle, your unseen work, and your gentle victories are not wasted. Even in nature, some of the greatest breakthroughs happen in silence. like bamboo, which spends years growing underground before suddenly shooting up into the sky. In the same way, your persistence in the shadows has prepared you for the light. You did what no one before you could, and in doing so you have earned a peace that belongs uniquely to you. This peace is not just an absence of conflict, but the deep reward of resilience, perseverance, and faith. Carry this truth with you, knowing that your name echoes as a symbol of victory. Your life itself testifies that darkness never has the final word, because light always finds its way. So step forward with confidence, knowing you already hold the power to overcome.